Okay, should be pretty close.
You're close. You're ready to go.
Okay, let's do it. Good evening, everybody. This is Monday, March 15th, 2021. This is the City of Ellensburg's City Council meeting for this evening. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and if we could, maybe Nancy Lorquist, back from the wilds, you could start us, and then we'll go from there.
We don't have to stand, right? Are we supposed to stand?
Well, you can do whatever you choose to do. I mean, just start us.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
To the flag of the United
States of America. To
and
the republic
for which it
stands,
one
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and
justice for all.
for all. Thank you.
Okay, when half of us are muted, it really doesn't have quite.
No, it doesn't have the effect.
We'll
Actually, I
get
think-
better at that, right?
Yeah, and we're actually going to work with Ben to make the flag be the visual that we have when we're doing it. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
So we have called to order. If the clerk would call the roll.
Engel. Here. Goodlow. Here. Lamb.
Here.
Lilquist.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
Tab.
I'm here also. Thank you. As we just heard, Nancy is here. Nancy Lilquist is here, so we don't need to act on the excused absence that's on the agenda. I did not have any proclamations, I believe, this week, nor words and recognitions. That would move us to 4, then the approval of the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
So a motion second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. It moves us to consent.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. That then brings us rapidly to 6A. This is our COVID-19 update from Dr. Larson.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. So lots of news since our last meeting. We are moving into phase 3 on the 22nd of March. That was a surprise to me, despite having worked on that particular committee to work on the metrics of moving into phase 3. It was a surprise that all of the counties were moved into phase 3. The high school sports actually are able to move into phase 3 on the 17th, which allows them to have a couple more games before, with actually having a significant amount of fans in the stand, which is nice. They did allow us to get out of our regional approach to progressing, and that was the unanimous decision of the group that I was on, that we shouldn't be using that as a way forward. And we also didn't really feel like the percent positive metric was really a metric that was a reliable metric. So that was changed. Looks like my internet is unstable. So if you can't hear me, I'll call in.
Yeah, it's working. It's working so far.
We currently are sitting at, we're at 242.6 is our current incident rate per 100,000 for 14 days. We had 14 cases in the week from March 5th to the 11th. And we're continuing to do a really good job with vaccination. We have 20.6% of our county receiving at least one vaccination. We have 14.29% receiving both vaccinations, and we are sitting at 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 6th in the state as far as counties with people vaccinated. So the state is at about 10%. and we are at 14.29% of people fully vaccinated. So that's really good. We continue to get more vaccine. The phases are slowly changing as we get more vaccine. Teachers and all people that work in K through 12 are currently able to be vaccinated, and we soon will be moving into a phase that will allow farm workers, grocery store workers, those type of things those people that work in those industries to be vaccinated. So a lot of good news. As I said, we move into phase 3 on the 22nd of March, but we can be moved back. So we have to be really continue to be aware of masking and social distancing, hand washing, all the things that we know works, and continuing to vaccinate not only our at-risk folks, but also anybody who currently can get vaccinated, because the more people that are vaccinated, the less disease we have in the community, and our numbers can go down. There is a little bit of a slip in the indicators for phases and how people can move forward and backward in the phases. They tried to make an adjustment for small counties. So counties that are under 50,000 have a different set of metrics, and I think that's to our disadvantage. So if we were a large county like King County, to stay in phase 3, we'd have to have less than 200,000 cases per 100,000 for 14 days, which is about where we're at currently. We continue to come down. The smaller counties have to have less than 30 cases over the course of 14 days, which would put that at 60 for our county. That was put into place really for counties like Columbia County that has only 5,000 people. So I think they'll probably change that before we come up to our time where they're looking at where we're at, what metrics we're meeting, and that is April 12th. So that's a concern to me, but it's a pretty logical thing when you look at it. And I reached out to folks at the state to address that issue. It's hard for me to say we want to be like King County, but we want to be like King County in this particular regard. So schools continuing to open. Thorpe is planning on being fully open in April. Cle Elum Roslyn opening. Ellensburg continues to fold more of the high need students in on Wednesdays, so they actually have students there 5 days a week, but most students are there 2 days a week on a hybrid system. And so we are doing really well in regards to education in comparison to the state as a whole, but we still have a lot of room for improvement. Working really hard on the 6 foot rule. People have to be 6 foot apart. The data actually, a really good study came out of Massachusetts and Wisconsin looking at disease transmission in December, kind of at the height of the last peak. And there was really not much difference between 3 foot and 6 foot in regards to those schools that still had masking and hand washing and at least 3 foot social distancing. So it's my understanding that the MMWR will be coming out. The CDC will be putting a document out in the next couple of days, which will reiterate that point that 3 foot is probably good enough, which will allow our schools to open fully in the fall, which will be really good. So that's my update for today. I'm willing to take any questions.
Thanks so much. Council questions? Stacy.
What's keeping us from vaccinating more people? I mean, are we not? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Stacy.
I was just gonna say, what's the pinch point? Do we not have enough vaccine? Are we getting it in people, as fast as we can with the volunteers we have? Do we not have people signing up? Like, what's the What's the pinch
Yeah,
point?
so, yeah, the pinch point has been vaccine availability. We had 1 week that we didn't get any vaccine. We did get over 1,000 doses of Moderna vaccine came in this week along with Pfizer. So we are filling up this week. We are reaching some levels of, like in the older than 65, that group is slowing down, and then teachers kind of filled that group, and then that group is slowing down. So we're going to have to open it up to other people eventually. There's some talk about allowing counties to move forward, which we haven't been doing before in regards to vaccination. So there's in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be lots of things changing. I'd really like to see it open up to those 16 and older, because a lot of our disease transmission is actually occurring in high school and college age students. Now that we have vaccinated a lot of the at-risk folks, the question is, should we start vaccinating people that are actually transmitting the disease to others? So there's a lot of work on that. I think, because of our work with the hospital, we've had the ability to get Pfizer because it's the hardest one to store. And so, but vaccine availability has been the pinch point. We have not gotten any Johnson & Johnson vaccine yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? David?
Thanks,
Then
Dr.
Nancy.
Larson. Sorry?
Oh, no, I was just saying, David, then Nancy L.
Okay, yeah, quickly. Thanks, Dr. Larson. And I was going to ask about the Johnson & Johnson, so none yet, but do you expect that to be arriving in the near future?
It's a question that they definitely didn't have their production system in place when it was approved. So they're kind of behind on production. I would expect a lot of that vaccine will be going to the larger vaccination clinics where it's harder to get people to come back for their second vaccine. So my prediction is we probably won't get a whole lot of Johnson & Johnson in our county until the numbers nationwide have increased. I think we'll get more Pfizer than we'll get Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, great. Quick other question I had was, I think you touched on this with your thoughts about the younger population, but are you aware of any, I was thinking of Central, are you aware of any plan for Central to require this returning students in the fall, assuming there's an uptick in on-campus activity? Are you familiar or aware of any requirement that this returning students be vaccinated before coming in? And then secondly, in terms of a priority vaccination group, looking at blunting a campus super spreader type event, is there any thought given to prioritizing faculty and staff on campus, much the way the school district has done for K through 12?
Yeah, so Central is planning on coming back fully in the fall. So with the full dorms full of students, 9,000 to 10,000 students on campus. They initially debated pretty seriously about mandating vaccine for students, and they made a decision this last week not to mandate vaccine, but just to encourage vaccine. They would have been the only college in Washington State that were mandating vaccine. So they chose not to do that. It has not been fully announced. I mean, it's been told in a variety of venues to faculty and staff and those type of things. So, but they've not made a full announcement to everyone at this point because they're still encouraging students to be vaccinated. I would expect that the post-secondary education folks will fall into similar to what they did with the K through 12 soon, but I've not seen anything hard and fast on that.
Okay, thank you.
They are planning on, they signed up to be a vaccination site and are planning on doing their own vaccine distribution on campus when they actually start to get vaccinated.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy L.
My question is about the wait list. Should I sign up before my tier is before I'm eligible and just be on that wait list, or do I wait to sign up?
Tristan can correct me if I'm wrong, but we are encouraging people to sign up because we have times when we have people that are no-shows, or we end up having more vaccine than we think we have. And so then we start going through the wait list, and there's a spot that allows you to say, I can be there in 20 minutes if you call me. And then those are the people that are getting called to come in. So when you talk to people and they're 23 years old and they got a vaccine and they're not a teacher, that's probably how they ended up getting that. Or they were volunteering and they had extra vaccine. Yes,
I will
you should
add, not that you're incorrect, that's always been the case. We want, especially people in the next tier, to get on the wait list so that as soon as we can start scheduling out. However, now that we're going into 1B tier 2 and we have so many more people who are going to be eligible as of Wednesday, our wait list has a cap, and that cap is now going to be exceeded. And so I know there are conversations within the vaccine branch about whether or not a wait list is sustainable. And I think the best thing that people can do right now is make sure they are signed up to receive county newsletters and press releases so that the second that link is live for appointments and you're eligible. So stay up to date on that. Make sure you go to Phase Finder and that you get your eligibility. And the wait list may or may not be a tool that Kittitas County will get to use moving forward.
Great, thanks. Nancy, good. Nancy, were you done?
Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, thanks. Nancy G.
Mark, I was just wondering about update on how many of our pharmacies are they getting vaccine too, and that's available there. What have we done to reach those that we talked about several weeks ago that were hard to reach and couldn't get to the vaccine center? And are we working a plan there? And then a simple question. Is there a
Sorry,
phase 4? I'm just wondering if there's a phase 4.
Yeah, let's answer that one first. There'll be a phase 4. So our work group said we should have a phase 4. It should be, most of phase 3 is going to be at 50%, 50% capacity for phase 3. Phase 4, we recommended at 75% capacity, and we recommended to be open after phase 4. The governor hasn't announced any of that yet, but that was our recommendation. Safeway and Fred Meyer currently have vaccine. They both have Moderna vaccine. And we had a meeting with the other pharmacies. Weimart is working with their corporate people. I'm not sure, I can't remember where Super One was. Whole Health Pharmacy is wanting to get vaccine, but they're not signed up yet. So currently we have Fred Meyer and Safeway. We also have our federally qualified health center that is going to be getting a separate stream of vaccine that would be coming from the federal government that's kind of out of the vaccine stream that's going to the state. So that'll be bringing more vaccine into the county. And they've currently been kind of folding a lot of their vaccine distribution into the county's distribution. So that's where we're at with that.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Again, Dr. Larson, thanks for being part of this and updating us and taking the questions. I think between all of that, it really helps. I know council understand what's happening, and certainly hopefully the folks that are listening in and streaming. So really appreciate the effort that it takes to do that and the work that you've been doing.
You're welcome. We'll see you all later. Okay.
So yeah, so that'll take us down then to 6B. This is an incubator building discussion with CenterFuse. That is on page 32 in your packet. And I don't know, James, are you going to lead it off?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the screen share going so that James can lead off the presentation.
All right.
Okay,
I see
got
it.
it.
I assume you guys can see that.
Yeah, it's good.
So again, thank you. I want to thank the City Council for allowing us to come talk with you about this. I know we spoke a few weeks back about CenterFuse strategic plan. So this is sort of the next step, if you will. And I know you did get a packet with some information that had a bit more detail. So we're not going to repeat everything that's in there, but just wanted to speak to some of this and really talking about CenterFuse's plan and how it fits to our strategic plan with regards to business development and the incubator building. Next slide. First, just wanted to sort of level set where we are in terms of what economic development is. And you can see on the slide what it says, and really just want to highlight that for CenterFuse, this is what our focus is. We see we're business development, economic development. For our purposes, they're really one and the same. I know there are some slight differences if you get into the semantics of it, but we're focused on bringing businesses here. We are focused on the long-term economic growth of Ellensburg and the region. And while we do have a KPI around bringing jobs as a way to measure that, that's really not the only goal that CenterFuse has. We are, again, really interested in making sure there's strong, good, sound investments in the Ellensburg economy to help it grow, because we really believe, once we can help some, all boats will rise as the economy grows. So really, this is our focus on what we're trying to do. Next slide, please. So what we're talking about is for the city and the city council to continue its investment in the Ellensburg economy. We know about the history of the purchase of the incubator building and the agreement with the Ellensburg Business Development Authority all those years ago, and that worked really well. But now the time has come, we think, for there to be a shift in that strategy, not a change, but really just a shift. Doing so really would advance this new partnership. We know we've got, Ellensburg Business Development Authority has a new name. We're CenterFuse. We've got a really a highly engaged board. And so we're really looking to continue this partnership with the city, going to this next chapter. And as I mentioned, it's really having the city continue that support of economic development and taking that building, that illiquid asset, and converting it to a liquid asset, so that CenterFuse would then be able to use the proceeds to leverage additional resources to benefit the community. We really feel that this entity, as a nonprofit and otherwise, is really well positioned to take advantage of that, because really we're laser focused on economic development opportunities. And as you heard from our strategic plan, we really have a strong idea of what CenterFuse should be doing and how it can really help benefit Ellensburg and the overall community. Next slide, please. So we want to talk about some immediate opportunities that have come up and that CenterFuse has really worked to advance and cultivate. And there's more details in the packet that we had sent. We'll talk about each one in a little bit more detail in the following slides. But I really just want to highlight that these are just examples of the types of opportunities that we really feel CenterFuse should be focused on. These are ones, again, that we're aware of and that we're working on right now as we speak. But we know more opportunities will come up. And we want CenterFuse to be able to be nimble, to be able to take advantage, and to move on these things very quickly. So for example, the revitalization of the Water Street historic buildings. Doing so, I think most people would agree that that's a good investment. That's a good activity, especially for economic development. It really promotes overall investment in the community. And preserving our history is critical for that. Broadband infrastructure, looking to increase, enhance, and develop that. That really builds the access and quality for businesses and residents. And it's a need that we have. This would also improve Ellensburg overall competitiveness as a potential market for new businesses to come with a stronger broadband. The secondary recycling market. This obviously would help grow the green economy, which is good for everybody. It would also help curate new businesses, and I think CenterFuse is well positioned to do so. And ultimately, this one really can bring specific living wage jobs to Ellensburg that we think. The first two about Water Street and broadband, those really are much more infrastructure type investments. That those will then lead sort of a domino effect, as you will, to other investments, other potential opportunities that can bring businesses here. The secondary recycling market, we think there's potential more immediate benefit to bring jobs to Ellensburg. Next slide, please. So the Water Street historic buildings, and you can see in that quote from Rory Turner, I won't read the whole thing, but really talks about if you have areas, especially your downtown and those key areas that aren't quite as developed as they could be, they can be obstacles to other investments. And that's really what we're talking about here, that if we can take that area and really put some resource, time, and energy into it, that could trigger additional activity, which again, you talk about that domino effect. Although I wasn't around for it, I've heard about just the revitalization that the Geddes and the Elks building brought to the community. And that's what we'd be looking at here, is that could really make not just a visual difference, but also a real substantive difference with businesses that would potentially want to do business in Ellensburg. Really want to emphasize that preserving and protecting our history is critical. CenterFuse is well aware of that. There's a lot of individuals who've been around for quite a while and can always speak to the importance of that. So anything we're talking about, that would be a key piece of it. And conversations have begun on this. There've been a number of conversations with folks for YMCA, the Kittitas Reclamation District, Dairy Gold, and other places. So there's some interest in here. And CenterFuse is really in a good position to sort of be that catalyst to help trigger this, to help drive this forward, and really try to bring this Water Street historic district sort of back to where it could be. Next slide, please. On broadband, again, I think this one, everyone would agree there's opportunities here. Everyone saw the CenterFuse funded study, the feasibility study that looked at broadband and what was needed. We saw that 15% of the community has no broadband, 33% have speed and reliability issues, 35% still continue to use DSL. There's a number of folks who have multiple carriers and so forth. So there's definitely a great need, not just in the business community, but in the residential community. And one thing that especially COVID has highlighted is the need for this, that this is just needed everywhere as sort of a baseline requirement. And when we talk about a baseline requirement for businesses, it's really the first question any potential business will ask is, how's your broadband? How's your internet access? And we need a good answer for that. We need to have a strong answer. We need to tell them that it's solid and that they can set up shop here, if you will. And their folks who live here, the employees who live here, will have good broadband at home as well. That helps us to entice and recruit businesses, obviously those who could pay good wages. One of the things that we've been talking about is putting together a potential broadband action team that would pull in members from the public sector, from the private sector, from CenterFuse. We've got different county folks interested in this. Charter and Consolidated have shown an interest in this. So CenterFuse has really worked as, again, that CenterFuse, if you will, of this to kind of drive the conversation forward and bring that interest there. We need everyone to participate. I can see from that quote from Russ Elliott that this is a community thing, and with CenterFuse being that nonprofit, we're really well positioned sort of be that centerpiece, and the proceeds from the sale of the building would really help spur this along, whether it's working with a facilitator for that broadband action team, someone could come in, sort of a subject matter expert to help wrangle everyone together and get everyone on the same page, whether it's securing matching grant funds or what have you. There's a lot of opportunities there, but this is one that I know we as a group are really interested in, and again, feel that CenterFuse is well positioned to move it forward. Next slide, please. The secondary recycling market. So as I mentioned, this is one that is looking at actually bringing specific living wage jobs. Because I know Margaret Reich has done some work on this and seen that there's real strong potential for that. And a feasibility study was commissioned by a grant that Margaret was able to put together with some partners. And part of that feasibility study is they're going to develop an action plan that will outline different opportunities. And again, CenterFuse being that catalyst, being that centerpiece, is really well positioned to take advantage of that and work with those community partners to develop new business opportunities as they come up. And again, these conversations have already started and they will continue. Using proceeds from the sale of the building would, again, just really accelerate those conversations and allow CenterFuse to take advantage of this opportunity even more quickly than we already could. And I think clearly the community benefit on this one is pretty clear. If we can help grow the green economy, bring jobs, but also help clean up and build some sustainability into our economy, I think that would be a win for everybody. Next slide, please. So we looked at the 2019 comp plan and the economic development chapter and pulled out a couple of the goals, and really feel that the CenterFuse strategic plan and these opportunities that we're presenting as examples really check off these 4 goals about supporting economic opportunities, stimulating, diversifying the economy, growing, sustaining qualified workforce, and emphasizing the economic development of downtown. So they really kind of meet all the requirements of that, and we feel that it's really consistent. And again, with CenterFuse, again, can be that pusher to kind of get these things moving along. We hope you agree with that. Next slide, please. So a question of why CenterFuse? We know talking about the incubator building and selling it and what to do with the proceeds. Again, we really feel strongly that CenterFuse is in the best position to take advantage of those proceeds and leverage them and continue to use them in a way that promotes economic development. So I'm going to ask Grant Clark, he's our board treasurer, to speak on our energized board piece and the sustainability. As Grant has been around longer than I have and has some history as well as some financial acumen that he can speak to. So Grant, are you able to speak to this?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I am through, okay. I've been on the board since 2015, and I've seen a real transformation in thinking and energy within the board. When I joined the board, the incubator building at one point was considered a good economic development tool, but and then the EBDA was also had their own building out at the airport, but it kind of fell into a rut of basically just property management of those 2 buildings, and there wasn't really no economic development going on. And during my time on the board, we've seen a real transformation of this board in the thinking and the willingness to go back and re-examine what we've been doing. Has it been effective? That type of thing. So I'm really excited about the direction that we're headed. But I think in order to move forward, we do have to divest ourselves of some of these other responsibilities. The amount of time spent on property management on these buildings just really isn't productive. And so we're looking for a good, sound strategic plan to change how we're doing things and refocus on stuff that we really feel will advance our mission, which is to grow the economy of Ellensburg. And so I think we're headed in the right direction, and I'd like to see us continue to move forward.
Thanks, Grant. And just to add on to that, the agile piece with CenterFuse being a nonprofit, again, we're very lean. We're able to move quickly. As funding opportunities come up, we can act fast. I mean, the grant that Margaret was able to get on the secondary market for recycling is an example. She learned about it, was able to move very quickly and get that going. And we're gonna be able to take advantage of other opportunities like that. And with regards to the strategic plan, I'm really excited about it because the plan is very simple, it's very focused, but it's very substantive too. That I think we have real clear eyes on what CenterFuse should be doing, and Grant sort of spoke to this, that we need to shift away from some of the current activities that we're doing and really get into the business of working with potential businesses, getting the name Ellensburg out there, recruiting as best we can. And part of that, and this is what we're talking about, especially with the broadband and the Water Street projects, is making sure that what we're selling, making sure that what we're promoting about Ellensburg is really as strong as it could be. And so those 2 items, those are really strong investments, in that we need to make sure when businesses come and they ask about broadband, again, we can give them a solid answer about what they should expect. That when they come to visit, they can see how great our downtown is, and not just the core area there, but other parts, even on Water Street, because that's, people want to set up their business in a place where their employees want to live. I think we all know that. And if you have an area that is even more attractive to live, businesses will be that much more attractive to want to bring their companies here. So we're really talking about getting some investments in there. And if we can do those, if we can put those pieces in place, then CenterFuse can really start focusing in areas that it should be focused more on longer term in the next few years around working with businesses, curating businesses, helping our existing businesses grow, find those opportunities for them to expand their operations and them to increase the number of jobs that they have, to build our entire economy. And so really, selling the incubator building is the first step. If the CenterFuse is able to use the proceeds, it'll just accelerate all this plan that we have and really be able to move things that much more quickly. Next slide, please, Margaret. This one just really wanted to emphasize the partnership, and we're really excited about it, and we think it's great. Again, I know I'm still relatively new here, but from my vantage point, it's been really excellent between the city and CenterFuse, and we want to really see that continue. We want to attract new businesses. We want to help existing businesses grow. We want to preserve our history, protect the natural environment, and really enhance the quality of life for everybody. And we know for the city, that's what you guys want to do as well. And I think with our strategic plan that we have about, again, shifting our focus to be primarily on working with businesses, working with existing and new businesses, making sure the history is there, natural environment there, so that when we're talking about Ellensburg and showing Ellensburg, we're putting our best foot forward. We know that's what the city wants as well. And again, being able to leverage the proceeds from the sale of the incubator really just helps push this along. These are going to move forward. This board is really an amazing board, so engaged. I mean, we've had more meetings and people are doing more things than you can imagine. And I just know with the city's support, we can just push things that much faster, that much further. All right, next slide, please. So really just want to thank you for your time today and allowing us to share this. I know there have been a lot of conversations around this, and we really feel strongly that now's the time to take actions. And like I said, I really just want to emphasize what we're proposing is not a change in strategy, and it's not a change in focus for the city, but it's really just a shift in the continuation of taking the building, again, that illiquid asset, and converting it to a liquid asset, continuing the focus and investment in CenterFuse to be that economic development body that will assess new opportunities, make sure everything has community benefit, is preserving historical aspects, is bringing jobs. We really feel we're in the best position to do so. So our ask is that the city would transfer title of the incubator to CenterFuse to allow CenterFuse to oversee the sale. We've already had conversations with some prospective buyers who are very interested in working with CenterFuse to do that, to proceed with the sale. We think that'd be the most efficient and effective way to do this. And then, of course, we would continue to come back to City Council to provide updates on a quarterly basis on how that investment is going and where we're planning, and everything that's going to be going on. We do expect there to be a lot of activity this year. I think we're all chomping at the bit after 2020 of not really being able to do much. And we really hope that the city will be right there next to us as we move forward. So again, thank you for your time. And we have some other board members here, so we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. So great, thanks. Let's open it up for questions from council. Or thoughts. We can do thoughts too. You don't have to ask a question. I can start. I mean, go ahead, Nancy.
I have a thought. I appreciate CenterFuse bringing this forward to us. I think we've kind of been talking about it for a while, and it's good to see a definite proposal before us. I can get on board with selling the incubator building if it's not needed. I mean, if it's not producing businesses and new businesses and jobs, it's not doing its job. And it has cost the city in terms of maintenance over time. So we probably save money by selling it. And I'm on board with dedicating the proceeds from the sale to economic development. I'm not as excited about turning that money directly over to either the building or the money to CenterFuse. I would propose that the city keep that money in an economic development fund that CenterFuse could access with council approval for grant match or whatever we all agree on. And so I would, you know, I guess I would ask staff to maybe at our next meeting bring back a proposal that of how that might work and what we would all have to agree on what the goals of that fund would be and how it could be accessed and who could access it. So those are my thoughts at this point, but someone might have a better idea. So
Others? Stacy?
I'm the liaison for this group, so I have heard about this plan as it's developed, and I am really excited about the board that's working on this, and much like Nancy said, that this is finally coming to fruition, which is great. I agree 100% that if the incubator isn't meeting the goals and the reasons that, you know, we invested in it initially, then it doesn't make sense to be going down that path. The other piece that I heard was that it's also tying up CenterFuse's time managing an asset that's not producing the results they're looking for. So for all those reasons, I agree that it makes sense to liquidate that. I would agree with Nancy that I think that the money should be earmarked for economic development. I'm committed to economic development. I think it's really important. I think our community needs it. I agree with everything James talked about how it, you know, all boats rise and how fundamental it is to the community. But I also want to make sure there's a level of accountability with the funding. And most of the things in my experience on council have been a proposal that then we fund. And I have a hard time with a volunteer board that could change at any time, you know, funding for something that we don't know specifically what the funding is going towards. It feels a little open-ended for me. But again, that's just one perspective. And so I'm interested in hearing what the other council members feel.
Anybody else? Mary?
Well, I've thought for a long time we should divest ourselves of the incubator building because I don't see it serving the city with great value. That said, I'm a little concerned about the use of the money and about a very concrete plan for where that money goes and how it gets used. And I'm kind of with everybody else. I think that the plan feels a little loose, a little vague. I would like, you know, we're planning to put X into this, we're planning to put X into that. My other concern has to do with valuation of the building. And if we deed the building to CenterFuse, I'm not certain what the legal ramifications of that are, but I'm concerned that whether that falls into the same kind of guidelines as we have with the city when we sell property or buy property, but most specifically when we sell property, of having it appraised and having it fall within a certain parameters of the appraised value and that sort of thing. I'm a little uncomfortable with us being approached with CenterFuse being approached by people that want to buy it. And suddenly CenterFuse gets the building and maybe they don't have to comply with the same rules as the rest of us, as the city does. So that makes me a little, it's sort of a red flag for me. Anyway, thanks.
Thanks. Other thoughts?
I'm on board with selling. I would want a lot more information about what we would do as a result, just reflecting the other council member statements.
Yeah.
I would agree with
Yeah, I
that.
would concur with that too.
Okay. Okay, so how do you want to proceed with this? What I'm hearing is we have general consensus that we should be moving to sell the building. I'm also seeing or hearing general consensus that the sale would occur within the city, so that the city would retain ownership and move the building to sale. And that the proceeds from the sale would then, in essence, could become a pot dedicated to economic development. And I think what I'm hearing is we would, Mary, you're muted, ask that then come back, and we'd have to work with probably John and Terry in terms of, is it a resolution that we would need in terms of encumbering the money? Can we just provide direction, or how in fact we would do that? I would, Nancy mentioned grants. I don't have a problem. So a couple things just as for me as we're processing this. The grant piece to me is not the critical piece. The operations and how you invest the dollars, that's a critical piece. And to be as honest as I can be, which occurs sometimes, I've got to say to this board that I respect each person that's on the board, and I have also seen the evolution of that board in terms of the energy and what you're trying to accomplish and attempting to accomplish. But there really is no specificity here that would lead me, let's grab a number. If the building is worth $500,000, there's nothing in what has been presented that would indicate to me as an elected official responsible for the investments in economic development, how in God's name $500,000 is going to be used, how that $500,000 would in fact create or generate economic development, what the outcomes of that would be. And so, I mean, I have an incredible, I'm very uncomfortable, really at this point, that indicating that we would even, I think to Nancy's point, I think we need to move in a direction that indicates that whatever resources are generated from the building would be in fact dedicated to economic development. But I would again ask, and I have made this request to the board and staff of CenterFuse for a level of specificity that provides us a level of accountability and comfort in terms of the dollars and the return on the investment. And it's honestly, folks, it's not here. We've spoken to broadband before. James, you touched on the potential partnerships with Consolidated and Charter or Spectrum. If those partnerships are moving forward, how would you propose to utilize the dollars? Do we just throw it at additional staff? Are you putting wire in the street? Are you hooking up individual homes? If we're moving into the private residential areas, there's no direct causative that I'm seeing in your proposal between penetration into residential areas and ROI for economic development. I mean, I get the equity piece. Honestly, I get the equity piece. I get what was put into the thing, but there's just a level of specificity here that I think is what you're hearing council reflect back to you. So I believe, John, maybe if you could help in terms of directing what our next steps would be, or Terry, I don't, either one.
Whatever I say is going to be wrong at this point. There is a fair amount of work that we're going to need to do to understand the relationship and how that sharing of the proceeds of the sale might occur either through a grant or matching fund or whatever it is that we elect to do. So I think we can move forward. It's obviously the building belongs to you. You can choose to sell it at any time and also decide how you wanted to use those proceeds, if at all. I don't think there's a problem providing for seed money for EBDA CenterFuse to move projects forward, but we're going to need to do a little bit of research to make sure that we understand. So I think probably the thing to do is, if you're amenable to a sale, go ahead and kick it back to the staff for an analysis of how we might best accomplish the sale, and then also how we might structure a program that supports CenterFuse but doesn't provide the funding to them directly.
Okay, council, is that consistent with, I
Yeah.
think that's
Yes.
fairly consistent with what I'm hearing. John, do you
Yes.
feel like you need a motion? Because
I
I
had a
know.
question, actually, Mr. Mayor. I had a
I'm
question.
sorry.
I just wanted to ask John, at what point would it be appropriate to consider the timing or the need for an appraisal, and how would it be accomplished before going too much farther down the road, or once there's sort of a framework of an agreement worked out?
The property's actually already been appraised.
Within the last, what, 6 months or so?
Yeah, probably the
Right.
last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
The appraisal occurred shortly after we shut down and then restarted in July.
Okay.
So I have to look at it. We may need to refresh it slightly, but
Okay.
the mechanics of that are the appraisal, the valuation, how we handle the sales agent, are all things that we're going to need to analyze at the staff level and bring you back some guidance.
Yeah.
That appraisal was done in September.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Thanks. And again, I just, to David's point, I don't hear council linking the sale of the building to an absolute clarity of the investment of the dollars, other than in broad strokes, wanting to dedicate it to economic development.
Correct.
Right. So,
And I think that's important that we include that, that association.
yeah, I mean, I'm good with that, but I also don't want to slow down the process of a sale in attempting to define a relationship. I don't want to get bogged down in the weeds. I prefer to move forward with the sale so that we reach the liquidity that everybody's touched on. And as we're doing so, being able to define then the relationship of those assets potentially to CenterFuse or economic development.
So I guess my next question would be, as staff is moving forward with the sale of the building and figuring out what happens to the current leases and such, I would entertain CenterFuse to come back if they, need seed money for staff, or, that's been brought up by council members here, or they have a specific grant they're going after that they need matching funds. I would like to hear those proposals so that we can fund those projects in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have that opportunity now. That doesn't necessarily change the relationship. Okay, I think we're good. I don't think we need to go back and forth much. We've got some direction. Part of it, to John's point, is that there's the complexity lies in the detail of trying to figure out the specific direction we're giving for the utilization of the resource. But we'll get that back to us hopefully in a couple meetings, and move forward with that. Any other questions at this point?
I'd just
James?
like to
Yeah.
make a comment, Bruce. I want to thank CenterFuse for bringing this presentation to us. I think there's a lot of potential here for projects that will take us into the future and will help with the economic development needs that we have. And I'm hoping that they can come back with some more specific kinds of things so that we'll have a clearer idea of how they might use the money.
Yeah, James, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, if that's okay. Just real quick, I want to speak to the level of specificity or the lack thereof. That was by design. I want to be sure that the council understands that was not a miss, or this group doesn't know. The reality is, for those 3 projects, they don't have the specifics of exactly, if you invest X amount of dollars, here's what you're going to get. We're not there yet. If you're looking at broadband, tying that to how many jobs it's going to create, I don't know if you can do that without being some crazy guesses, because those are investments, right? Investments in infrastructure, revitalizing a historic area. I don't know what the appraisal will come back as, but that likely wouldn't be enough to say investing this much is going to yield so much. So what we wanted to do is bring these concepts of this is what we're moving with. And I understand the need from council, and I completely respect that. And that makes sense. But I want to make sure you guys understand that this board really has a vision for this, of how we want to move forward. And the big impetus for us is getting out of the incubator. As this council has mentioned, it's just not serving its purpose anymore, and is pulling us that we're not able to focus on some of these quite as well, and other opportunities. Right. And so we really want to push that forward as well. So we didn't want to wait until the broadband feasibility is done and we come with a specific, that could be months away. If you're talking about building all these public-private relationships and partnerships, same with the revitalization, that doesn't happen overnight, obviously. And so that was the impetus for us, is that we need to move so that we can start implementing the strategic plan more quickly. And we wanted to share, here's the types of things that we're working on right now, and we're going to continue to work on. So that's what I just want to be sure that was clear.
Okay, we've got a whole meeting yet to do here, Mary, unless you've got something that's going to change the dynamic of the conversation. I mean, what we're doing is moving forward with just that. We will move forward with divesting of the building. That will do one of the asks, and then we will continue to have a conversation about the economic development component and how that plays. So, John, did you? The only thing I didn't. You're not. We do not need a motion,
right? No, I don't think there's any need for an official.
We've got direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Again, I don't want this to be again negative toward the board or the work that the board's doing, but I think there's a piece here of how the relationship can evolve and really grow. And so I appreciate really the effort that's gone to get us to this point and the willingness to bring this conversation forward. So with that, then I'm going to move down to citizen comment on non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for folks who to approach council over an item which is not on the agenda. If you did want to approach council on an item or an issue, please raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. Once you're acknowledged, please give your name, address, whether you're representing yourself or others. Comments during this period are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers, if you are making comments, please do not make comments of a personal and or derogatory nature. Also note, because an item is not on the agenda this evening, council will not take action on any item that's put in front of us during non-agenda. With that, is anybody who wishes to approach council over a non-agenda item? Landis Hansen, I see your hand.
Yeah. Hi, Landis Hansen, 1015 East 18th Avenue. I just would like to approach council about, I think I might have mentioned this last time, but again, there's anti-houseless architecture within especially our bus stops. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
My screen switched. Sorry about that. And so I'm just here to ask that we, moving forward in the future, make sure that our architecture is safe and happy for all of us. The benches I'm talking about have a bar in the middle, which would prevent somebody from laying down in shelter, which in Ellensburg, we don't have any permanent shelter here for houseless people. And so I think that that's important to make sure that we ensure that all members of our community are happy and healthy. Another thing is I would just make a simple request that, we continue to invest in public transit. I really appreciate the work that y'all have done on public transit, and thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anybody else wish to approach? Okay, I'm seeing no one right now. Then let's move on. That'll bring us then to 8A. This is page 41 in your agenda packet. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing. There's a script that I'll need to read. Let me get out of this. So if you will bear with me as we go through this, there are also a series of questions that I will need to ask of council. So the purpose of this closed record hearing is for the city council to consider the pertinent facts, applicable law, and to make a final decision in the matter of the application for preliminary plat approval of a phased 50-lot subdivision known as Ridgeview Subdivision 3, submitted by Brandon Drexler, agent, on behalf of BDN Properties LLC, owner number P19-135. The closed record hearing is to consider the application for a preliminary plat approval submitted on behalf of BDN Properties LLC is now open. I ask your cooperation in the following procedure. This is a closed record hearing. There's already been an open record hearing before the hearing examiner where evidence was submitted and testimony received. Under state law, there can be only one open record public hearing allowed in this proceeding. This closed record hearing means that the council bases its decision only on the record developed at the public hearing previously held before the hearing examiner. Only persons who already participated in the open record hearing on this matter through written comments or oral testimony received by the hearing examiner can participate in this closed record hearing. Only the following persons who testified before the hearing examiner may offer comments or argument during this hearing if they so choose. Those persons are Brandon Drexler, Nevada Collier, Paul Dempsey, Chris Cruz, and Philip Fluge. No new testimony or introduction of new materials or evidence is allowed. Comments or arguments must address only the record already established during the previous open record hearing before the hearing examiner and be directed to the issue of whether the hearing examiner's decision should or should not be adopted. If anyone presents comments that are not based on facts in the record, anyone may make an objection. If an objection is made, the person speaking will stop until the issue of the objection is resolved. City clerk is making a recording of these proceedings. When you are invited to speak, please begin by stating your name and address, indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group or both. Speak slowly and clearly. Only one person will be allowed to speak at a time. Any questions of staff are to be directed through council. City council seeks to conduct this hearing in a manner that is fair and unbiased in both appearance and fact. Therefore, I would ask the council members the following questions. Does any member of the council have an interest in this property or issue?
No.
Nor do I. Will any member of the council obtain any financial benefit or suffer a financial loss as a result of the outcome of this hearing?
No.
Nor will I. Does any council member believe he or she cannot hear or consider this matter in a free, fair, and objective manner?
No.
Nor I. Has any council member engaged in communication with opponents or proponents regarding this issue outside of the public hearing process?
No.
Nor have I. If any council member employed by a party which has a direct or indirect interest in any property, the value of which will be affected by a decision in this matter?
No.
Nor have I. Will any council member be employed by a party for which potential employment may be a result of the decision in this matter?
No.
Nor I. Is any council member a member of or involved in such associations or organizations, whether formal or informal, which take a position on this application?
No.
Nor I. Is any member of a council member's family or any person with which they have social relationship an advocate or a witness who has provided oral or written testimony or argument in this matter, or will provide oral or written testimony or argument in this matter?
No.
No.
Mayor,
Nor have
I am
Oh, sorry.
I'm friends with a couple of the people who spoke at the closed record hearing, but I don't think it's going to impede my ability to make a decision.
Okay, so Terry, I need some direction.
As long as Council Member Engel is comfortable continuing with her participation in the hearing, and there's no objection, it can move forward.
Okay, do I need to ask for objections to her participation?
I think that it'd be appropriate at this time.
Okay, so given
It'd be that,
the,
Mr. Mayor, it'd be that it would only be for the people who testified below to object, or theoretically a council member, another council member could object, but not generally the members of the public.
yeah, no, it would be those folks who provided testimony at the initial open,
Correct.
right? So is, given the information provided by Councilmember Engel, is there any of the individuals who provided testimony at the open public record hearing who would object to her participation in this?
And they could
No.
raise their hand if that was.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to there. I'm not seeing anyone. Let's see. Okay, so I'm seeing no one in either the participants or the in our participants. So thank you for divulging this. Let's see, is there anyone present at this time who objects to my participation or any council member's participation in these proceedings on appearance of fairness grounds? Seeing no one, we'll proceed. Okay, so that brings us then, before we hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
I do have a staff report. So thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is Jamie Ailing with the Community Development Department. What we do have before you tonight is the closed record hearing for consideration of the preliminary plat known as Ridgeview Plat Division 3. This proposed plat is located south of Bender Road, east of Hannah, and west of Columbia Street. And that is depicted in Exhibit 1.1 and 1.2 that starts on page 55 of your packet. The property is roughly 9.55 acres in size and currently zoned residential suburban. Residential suburban zoning allows for detached single-family dwellings with a base maximum density of 6 dwelling units per acre. The proposal consists of 50 lots that will be developed in 3 phases, with lots ranging in size from 4,531 square feet up to 8,670 square feet. And this does fit within the allowable density in that zone. A new north-south road proposed named Leah Lane is proposed to access the lots, with the main access coming off of Bender Road to the north and then tying into the existing east-west road, Greenfield Avenue, which will be extended for connection into the subdivision to the west on North Delphine Street. With the extension of the full street improvements to Greenfield and half street improvements to Bender, this will enhance existing school, walk, and bike routes by providing connecting sidewalks. This will provide neighborhood connectivity and achieve the goals and policies of our comprehensive plan. The subject property was previously granted preliminary plat approval by council in 2004 as phase 3 of Ridgeview plat. And during that plat approval process, council had specific discussions to road connectivity concerns and added conditions to their approval of that plat pertaining to road connectivity. But phase 3 was never constructed, and the last extension that was granted expired in 2010. Hence the reason Mr. Drexler has applied for a new phase 3 plat approval. In chapter 15.260 of our land development code, it required an open record hearing held before the hearing examiner. That hearing was held on January 14th of 2021. We had 4 members of the public plus the applicant at that hearing. And testimony consisted of concerns over stormwater design and traffic. Those were the main points of the testimony, traffic concerns. At that hearing, the recommended findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision for recommending approval by the hearing examiner are attached as Exhibit 1 and shown on page 49 of your packet. A SEPA review was completed and it resulted in the issuance of a mitigated determination of non-significance on October 22nd of 2020. So pursuant to Ellensburg City Code 15-260-060 subparent E, section 1, the City Council shall, at the conclusion of the hearing, make its own decision supported by writing written findings of fact and conclusions of law and approve with conditions or disapprove the preliminary subdivision application. Council is being requested to approve this preliminary plat subdivision application by adopting the proposed resolution, which incorporates the hearing examiner's recommendations. The decision criteria that City Council must consider are set forth in Ellensburg City Code 15-260-060, and those consist of that the preliminary subdivision conform to all applicable zoning standards of the city as set forth in the LDC. All lots within the preliminary subdivision are provided with satisfactory access, established consistent with the requirements of the Public Works Development Standards. That all lots within the preliminary subdivision are provided with adequate provisions for water, sanitary wastewater facilities, storm drainage, surface water facilities consistent with requirements of Public Works Development Standards and Ellensburg City Code Title 19. And all lots within the preliminary subdivision are provided with adequate provisions for electric service and for natural gas service if applicable. And that the preliminary subdivision conform to all applicable critical area standards set forth in Division 6. And lastly, the preliminary subdivision make appropriate provisions for public health, safety, general welfare, and for such open spaces, drainage ways, streets, roads, alleys, or other public ways, transit stops, potable water supplies, sanitary waste, natural gas mains, services, parks and recreation, playgrounds, schools, school grounds, and all other relevant facts, including sidewalks and other planning features to assure safe walking conditions for students who walk to and from school. With that, staff agrees with the hearing examiner's conclusion that the proposed preliminary plat meets the above requirements and recommends council adopt the attached resolution approving this preliminary plat. With that, I can stand for any questions.
Great, but not exactly yet. Thank you. So let's go further down the script here. Does the applicant's representative, Mr. Drexler, have comments or arguments you would like to make at this time? If you do, please remember your comments must be limited to the evidence in the record that has already been established by the hearing examiner and must not include or refer to any new evidence or materials outside of the hearing record. Mr. Drexler, I think.
I don't believe he's attending, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I didn't see him. Okay, great. I got you. I thought it saw. Anyway, does staff have anything to add?
Have nothing at this point, no.
Okay, and then since we don't have an applicant's representative, so then do any of the other persons listed above who testified before the hearing examiner have comments or arguments that they would like to make at this time? Again, if so, please remember that your comments must be limited to the evidence in the record established by the hearing examiner and must not include any or refer to any new evidence or materials outside of the hearing record. And I believe that I saw, yeah, so we have Nevada Collier with her hand raised. So let's see if you're live. There.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, so if I could get your name and address.
Okay, Nevada Collier, address is 2402 North Delphine Street.
Okay, great, thanks.
I am commenting for myself and the existing community of Ridgeview Plat. We are the ones that are wanting to get the gate put in to stop the traffic from Leah Lane and Greenfield Avenue coming west into our neighborhood. We do not see the reason to have this extended into our neighborhood due to we can't handle any more traffic, and there's no sidewalks or streetlights on Ridgeview, so it add more bigger safety concern to the children that we do have here that are having to walk out to Water Street. So just by, I think, stopping traffic from coming in will be beneficial to everyone. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. I also see Warren Plug. And you should be good.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome.
Name
No, I
and
just like,
address.
thank you very much. Name is Philip Warren Pluggy. Address 2400 North Lilac Way, Ellensburg, Washington. And my road is right there next to Delphi. With that, I just like to just really piggyback on to what Nevada has just kind of commented on with respect to the gate that we would like to propose. Again, I think that for the safety of the community, for the people within this area, I think that it's an advantage, and it would benefit those within that residential neighborhood. I'd also like to add to the fact that originally there were covenants and codes and restrictions that attached to this.
Okay, if I may, just a moment.
I can't add anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, that's all right. I did not recall that being part of the record. Jamie, am I accurate with that? No, let me just make sure that
you're correct.
Okay, so yeah, so Mr. Plug.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's
Never
great.
mind.
I mean, it's a learning process for us all. So thank you.
That's okay. No, it's mainly for the fact that the safety aspect is of great concern. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone else who spoke at the open record hearing wish to approach? Seeing no one, then at this point, does staff have anything to add?
I don't have anything further other than what's already in the record. So I know that the issue of traffic and the gate was approached within the record. The fire marshal weighed in not wanting that. Public Works weighed in not wanting a gate. Roads are meant for connectivity, and therefore, and it's within our code to require such connectivity. And that did get addressed, but consideration was taken by the hearing examiner, and in his recommendation, he followed with the recommendations of the fire department and Public Works to not include that as one of his conditions in the recommended decision.
Great, thank you. And again, I would just point out to council that is part of the record. If you look back through that. Okay, then, council, do you have any questions of the? We don't have an applicant representative, but the applicant's representatives, members of the public who spoke, or staff. Stacy.
When I've been up in for Jamie. In that area, there is kind of what they're talking about. I think it's on Ellington.
Yes.
What's the difference between how fire access is served on Ellington and what this would be?
The difference.
I mean, how did we end up with a barricade on Ellington and it's not recommended here?
Because that kind of proves the point that there is only one in town, and it's proven to be a learning experience that we don't want to continue because it does impede response times for emergency vehicles and such. Would be what was referenced in the record itself as far as where fire weighed in on that heavily, and the connectivity piece in our own code.
Okay.
Other questions? Nancy Lillquist.
These are local access streets, correct? So they're designed for low traffic. Is that for Jamie? Question for Jamie.
Yes, that would be correct.
So do we know, for local access streets, you have 3 choices for widths. Do we know what width these streets will be?
We know that it'll be a 50-foot total right of way, total width on the main one that is being questioned, the Greenfield extension. And I don't know, currently, I don't have which road section we're going with as far as 26-foot curb to curb or, but I believe would be it's already constructed on where the extension comes out of Delphine Street. So it would be the same, it would match that same width where the stub is already into that neighborhood.
Well, except those were built before the narrow street widths, correct? So that was probably a 32-foot, perhaps.
So Terry, I see Derek, and Derek, I don't think you can weigh in.
Well, as a staff member, he can't weigh in on that issue as long as he's not adding to the record.
Okay, and I need, Terry, just if you would, I want to make sure we're not drifting too far off what had been presented.
Yeah, the street widths are part of the record. So to the extent that Councilmember Lillquist is asking about the street widths, I think that's appropriate.
Okay. So Derek, did you want to help?
Sure, I could try to answer that. The existing portion of Ridgeview that was constructed previously with the first plat is constructed at 36-foot width. And the civil plans for the new portion have not been completed yet. So there's different options on allowable road widths based on the street classification, but that has not been determined by the applicant yet or their engineer.
But those would necessarily be more narrow, right? Because the new street would be more narrow than 36 foot. Is that correct?
Correct, but Ridgeview Lane is actually a minor collector. So it would be, let me turn to the right page here. It'd be a road width of 38 feet. We'd probably match existing up through the intersection of Leah Drive or Leah Lane, whatever it's called. Just because be considered infill.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused. I see Greenfield on the plat, but not Ridgefield.
I would agree.
It doesn't.
I'm sorry, I meant Greenfield.
Okay, so Greenfield's a minor
correct
collector, and so it would be the standard minor collector width.
Correct.
Okay. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions? Before closing the public hearing, I wish to advise everyone present that council reserves the right to reopen this hearing for additional questions or take additional comments later tonight or at a continued hearing if needed. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may now begin discussion and deliberation of the matter. Council.
The concerns of the community resonate with me because that's something that I'm concerned about myself and my neighborhood. And I know that it was addressed in the hearing, and I guess the only question in the back of my head is if you're a fire marshal or a first responder, I think you're always going to want the most connected roads possible. And as a community member, is there a balance between a safe level of connectivity and enjoying some of the benefits of cul-de-sacs and roads that aren't through streets? So that's where the question comes, to me that I'm trying to deliberate myself. Not being a first responder and not having the answer to that, I feel inclined to lean on the staff recommendations and the experts that have weighed in on at the hearing.
If we're in agreement, we would need a motion.
So resolution number.
Yeah, so it's a 2021-07, I believe.
That's correct.
I move we adopt resolution 2021-07 approving the preliminary plat application of Ridgeview Plat Division 3 subdivision.
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion and second to adopt resolution 2021-07, resolution to City Council relating to preliminary plat approval of the Ridgeview Plat Division 3 subdivision P19-135 located in Ellensburg, Washington. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I am a big believer in connecting streets. I see streets as a skeleton on which everything is built, and if they're a higher level of connectivity allows more disbursement of the vehicles through the community and less traffic on any one particular road. And I think that when Greenfield is built out, there will be sidewalks for the community and for those kids to access the bus stop. It also provides more than one way in and out for that community so they're not having to rely on Ridgeview as much. So the traffic will shift. So I understand everyone wants to isolate themselves, but I think that the more connected we can be with our neighborhoods, the more we can move around within the community, it allows. I think with a cul-de-sac, I have a problem with kids having to walk out onto an arterial to get to their playmate's house because they can't access it through local neighborhood streets that are connected. So the end result of a cul-de-sac is you dump all the traffic onto collectors and arterials, and you can't walk from house to house as easily. And so that's why the comprehensive plan supports the connected street system. So I'm in favor of the motion.
Any other comments?
I would just add, I was on the planning commission either when the gate was added on Ellingson or shortly thereafter. And there was a lot of heartburn on that decision. I know the planning commission was not supportive of that. That was a council decision made at the time. But I think it was recognized as not a good practice to establish for future developments. I just want to mention that.
Thanks. Was there another comment? We do have a motion second to adopt resolution 2021-07. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I too vote aye. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to folks that came in to present the information about their neighborhood and the impact. It's important to hear those voices, even if we don't necessarily support it. But it's important to hear that perspective as we go through this process. So thank you for taking that time. That would move us then down to 9A. We're at page 102. This is the second reading and adoption of ordinance 4872.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. Jerica Pasco, Finance Director for the city. Beginning on page 104 of your agenda is ordinance number 4872 as prepared by the city's bond council, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds in an amount necessary to refund certain outstanding limited tax general obligation bonds of the city to achieve a debt service savings and to pay the cost of issuance and sale of the bonds. Ordinance number 4560, adopted by City Council on February 16th of 2010, authorized the issuance of the 2010 limited tax general obligation bonds in the aggregate principal amount of $2,935,000. Council gave first reading to ordinance number 4872 at the March 1st, 2021 meeting. Pursuant to state laws, the city is authorized to refund the city's outstanding bonds in order to achieve a debt service savings over the remaining life of the bonds. The 2010 bonds were originally issued to pay the cost of various capital projects of the city and to pay the cost of issuance. The 2010 bonds currently outstanding in the aggregate principal amount of $1,675,000 and bear an interest rates ranging from 3.5 to 5%. We did solicit proposals for the purchase of these bonds, and actually after the publishing of this agenda, we received 8 proposals, and staff is prepared to select Kashmir Valley Bank's proposal at 1.4% fixed for the first 5 years and then 2% for the remaining 5 years for an estimated total all-in cost of 1.57%. It also includes no early prepayment penalties and the estimated net present value savings of $230,717 or about 13.77%, and an average annual saving on those debt payments of about $25,654. So staff currently recommends that council conduct the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 4872, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds to achieve a debt service savings and to pay the cost of the issuance and sale.
Thank you. Council.
I move second reading and adoption of ordinance number 4872, authorizing the issuance of 2021 LTGO refunding bonds.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have motion second to conduct second reading and adoption of ordinance 4872. Any further discussion?
If anyone doesn't understand what we're talking about, it's a savings to the city, a substantial savings to the city, achieved by refinancing. It's just like refinancing your home, except it's your money and we're going to make it less expensive for you. There you go.
No, I think that's great. And I appreciate, I don't think when you were before us before that we had the specific savings.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your nailing that down and being able to give us a number moving forward. That is significant. So we have a motion second to conduct second reading of the ordinance. Any further discussion? If the clerk would call the roll.
Engel,
Aye.
Goodlow,
Yes.
Lamb,
Aye.
Lilquist,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Cab.
Yes. That motion passes.
An ordinance of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to contracting indebtedness, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of limited tax general obligation refunding bonds in an amount necessary to refund certain outstanding limited tax general obligation bonds of the city to achieve a debt service savings and to pay the cost of issuance and sale of the bonds, fixing or setting parameters with respect to certain terms and covenants of the bonds authorized by this ordinance, appointing the city's designated representative to conduct the sale of the bonds authorized in this ordinance in one or more series and to approve bond sale terms for each sale of bonds and providing for other related matters.
Great, thank you. that moves us then down, I believe, to the manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, Council, on another bond issue, at your February 16th regular meeting, you authorized the issuance of waterworks utility revenue bonds. The staff solicited interest in the purchase of those bonds, and the successful proposal came from Banner Banks. The proposal provides for 20-year maturity for tax-exempt bank qualified revenue bonds with a fixed interest rate of 2.5%. And the financing also gives us the opportunity to draw down the total amount of the bond over a period of time ending in November of this year. So just informational at this point, a very favorable interest rate, and it's going to be a good bond project. The second issue on the report is just a note that spring has sprung. City parks are beginning to open. All restrooms in all parks will be open on Monday, March 22nd, and the front gate at Irene Reinhardt Park is scheduled to open on Friday, April 2nd.
Which we should also note is a sign of the times, because if anybody remembers that gate didn't swing open so easily last year.
That's correct, and hopefully once it swings open, it stays open during the day for a very, very long time. The other issues, or actually two issues related to spring construction, we today began the seal coat program. This is a program in the street department that crack fills streets in advance of the seal coat that's applied in July and early August. All streets that are identified on the seal coat program will receive crack fill, and then there are a number of other streets that are in such condition that they'll also be crack filled. And then the last construction project that's noted in the report is the Bull Road utility extension. Virtually all of our utilities are being extended down Bull Road to Berry Road to connect with our utility systems on South Canyon Road. This project started today, and there are 200 working days available for completion. And this is an improvement that will loop all of our utility systems and provide redundancy. And it's something that has been needed for a very, very long time. Congratulations to Ryan and Public Works staff for bringing this project through. It involved a crossing underneath I-90 that involved a WSDOT crossing permit. And I've experienced trying to receive those myself in the past. The last one I got took 10 years. These guys whipped it out in 4. So congratulations to them for that. We do not need an executive session this evening, and so that concludes my report. I'd be glad to respond to questions.
Great. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, Nancy.
John, do you have any updates on city openings for like the pool and the library and the senior center? Are those going to be able to open anytime sooner because we're in phase 3, or what's the status on that?
The library and pool are currently open.
Oh, okay.
The pool workout room facility has been limited in occupation, and it will actually increase slightly with the move to phase 3. We still do not have a clear understanding from the governor on when senior centers will be encouraged to open. I know there's senior centers around the state that have implemented some outdoor activities. And with the weather improving, we may well move to do the same thing. But at this point, we don't have enough information to move to be able
to. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, let's do our council reports then. I should start with Nancy Lillquist.
Okay. So Central Washington University is requesting through the congressional delegation. I guess there's money for some infrastructure programs, and they're asking for letters of support for 3 projects that they're pushing forward. For a multimodal transportation hub that would be shared parking with the event center. So it's that big event center parking lot. And so it would be student parking during the school year and then event center parking otherwise, but it would also be a hub for all of the buses, all of the taxis, whatever, so that you could catch one bus and transfer to another, or it would bring the Greyhound station closer to the university and student housing. It would also be, they want to put solar panels as a on in the parking area. So that's one project. Another project is an airport hangar dedicated for Central. So essentially to build an airport hangar, and their lease with the county, they're currently using a county hangar, and so they would let the county have that hangar back. Their lease expires in a couple of years. So they would like to replace it with their own dedicated hangar for the aviation student program. And the third project is the Center for Cultural Innovation that is the Old Heat building. So it'd be a renovation of Old Heat. And this is a student-led project to have space for multicultural kinds of events. And Nancy Goodlow, you took that tour, so you probably might be able to explain that better, but it would also be a zero carbon kind of renovation. So doing some innovative things there. Anyway, if the council would, I guess, put a stamp of approval on having some letters drafted and the mayor's signature on those. There wasn't time to actually draft anything and put it in front of you. But if you agree with the concept of those projects and that the city should support those, we could move forward with mayor signatures on and get some letters drafted.
I might add that the plan for the Multicultural Center for this second floor is to have some meeting rooms and some opportunities for our community groups, maybe to be headquartered there or to meet there, and to and that was one of the main requests we got from almost every group that we listened to this summer in the listening tour. So from the standpoint of that, it's very exciting, as well as the potential to host a variety of kinds of events to enhance opportunities for the community to gather.
So
go ahead. The information I've heard about the first proposal you offered is exciting to me, to better utilize space that we have and improve transportation and connectivity. And the information about the third idea you presented, everything again that I've heard so far is really great. And like Nancy Goodlow said, that was one of the things that was asked for. The second idea you presented, I'm curious, just because there's a lot of backstory with that. I'm curious if you're acting as a liaison or an advocate, or what your take on that is, because you're much more involved in that, and I know nothing about that.
Me personally,
on the airport advisory, or your role on council?
I mean, if I may, Nancy, we're asking for, it's a request from Central. So that was the initiator. And we're just, it would be asking for council blessing on a letter of support for the capital ask.
Right, and I'm familiar with the project and the request. I know that the county wants their hangar back and has other uses for it. And if we can get federal money to support a hangar for the aviation program, which is an important program for Central. So I guess my position on the Airport Advisory Committee is as a representative of the council. So it's both. It's all of that.
That's great.
So I don't know that
So
we need
yes,
a form.
I'm okay with all three if
Yeah.
the mayor wants to sign a letter.
Yeah, I don't know that we necessarily need a formal motion for all three. Just if I got consensus, we'll just move forward with getting the letters done. And just to note, the city has also submitted a number of capital projects for that same program. I don't know that we're necessarily in competition, but both Senator Murray's office and Representative Schreier's office have actually set a process in place for soliciting capital projects that could be funded out of the, whatever it is, 1.7 trillion that was passed recently. So we'll see how it falls out for everybody. And we thank Stacy's Children for funding us. Let's see, David, you have anything?
Yeah, real quick, landmarks and
Nancy,
design.
I'm sorry. Nancy, were you done? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Real quickly, landmarks and design meeting on the 2nd. I think they're pretty close to fully staffed up now. They spent most of the meeting sort of bringing the new members who were attending up to speed on kind of what they do. And Stacy Henderson and staff is spending a lot of time helping. And I think they're all excited to see where the future will lead. That's really all I have as far as reports, but I was going to make just a general observation about the airport for those who were following that. Without getting into a lot of specifics, I can tell you that there's a lot of activity out there right now. There's a lot of energy, and Ken Grannon, the airport director, is really, I think, getting things focused. And among those things include some staff changes. So they are, I think, becoming more strategic. So just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you. Mary, do you have anything tonight?
No, we didn't have a lodging tax meeting because there was really nothing to discuss. And I have KitCom. Our KitCom meeting got moved a week, so it's this week instead of last week.
Great, thanks. Stacy?
At all my normal meetings, Planning Commission is continuing to do great work and has some exciting proposals coming up. Parks and Rec met and has recommendations for us for a park name, which is exciting. So you guys can wait and see that come to us in our upcoming agenda. And you saw the work of CenterFuse tonight. There is going to be a vacancy on the Parks and Rec Commission. So if anyone is interested in applying, I believe she said she has one meeting left and then she'll be resigning.
And just for folks, if anybody's still hanging with us, there was an applicant from the last when we filled the vacancy. So just so people understand that anytime you do make an application, that would also be brought forward for consideration in filling the vacancy on a board or commission. Nancy G.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of a report, but I do want to let the public know that we're still taking applications for the DEI Commission. And those application forms are available on the city website. Once that process is closed, DEI subcommittee will be developing a process for making selections for the new commission to bring to council.
Great, thank you. Tristan?
Yeah, well, I accidentally blew off Josephine because I wrote things incorrectly in my calendar, but I did attend the Arts Commission selection of the Call of Art that came to be through many discussions that we had City Council last year. So this was the Call for Art down at the currently unnamed, soon to be park downtown, with a focus on racial equity. And there were a lot of good proposals. There were 3 finalists selected. They'll move forward with small stipends so that they can generate a full proposal, and we'll meet for final selections in early April. And the committee that's making those selections consists of clearly Arts Commission members, myself as a city council rep, Parks and Rec rep, and a community member who also owns a business downtown. End of report.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, so just a couple things. Nancy mentioned that the applications are still open for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. So that's still moving forward. We also do have an opening on the Public Transit Advisory Committee. If anybody out there would be interested, that would be a good thing to do. We do have new logos, and I'll ask our transit coordinator, Betsy Dunbar, to get those into our packet, maybe for next meeting so we can kind of see them, but we've reached that final iteration. They're kind of it's a real shift, kind of brighter colors, more modern look. So that'll be coming at us. I would also, if anybody again is still hanging with us, we are in the process of finalizing the interviews for the finalists for the city manager position. At this point, I believe our plan would be to have a public meet and greet on the evening of March 29th. And Terry, I don't know the time. I believe it'll be about 6 o'clock and would be held in the ballroom of the Elks building.
Yeah, that's correct.
So again, if you would like to, and we are asking for community feedback, that will become part of the consideration council has in moving forward in filling the position. So again, it's March 29th, 6 o'clock, the Elks building in downtown. And with that, I think I'm good, unless anybody else has anything. So for the good of the order, I think we are adjourned. Thank you all. Let's do this again in 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks. We actually have a longer one.
Good night.
Good night.
All right.